Hello everyone, it's Marcy and I'm back to play with some more tracing paper. But first I want to show you, in my last video I showed you how I was making flat bags using the tracing paper. That's the one I'd previously done, and these are the ones that's out of just printed copy paper that we did in the last video. But then after that, I made some more. That was made using a digital from Dear Julie Julie. That one from Tracy Fox. Let's pull these down to be sure I'm in frame. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time that one is from Artie Mays, I believe. And then these are some from Antique Papery. And those two. So I had lots of fun making these bags. I think in the final analysis, what I learned was I really like take that one out, take that one out, take that one out. I really like these the best, I think. The ones that are, it's not that I mind a pattern, but a less defined, like this with the Victorian woman is great, but it's very limited in use. Now granted, this has a sunflower, but you can, depending on what you're doing, you can almost make that just fit in your journal. It doesn't have to be in a sunflower journal. This one that I used, Dear Julie Julie, this was from her sewing digital kit, and it's just sewing advertisements, and so I thought that worked out great. This one from Tracy Fox, I believe this was Nature's Epiphany. I really like that kit, and again, yes, it says floral and it's got a butterfly, but you could make it work in just about anything you wanted to. The Peacock Journal one from Dear Julie Julie, I love it. Of course, it is pretty much you got to do peacock, but I really like that one. And then this one, it's an antique papery one, and of course it has floral on it and stuff, but it's got other colors. It's not as set a pattern as that is. Anyway, okay, so enough about those. So I got all those made, and now they will go into my ephemera bucket. And today, I'm going to work on making tags using tags and tracing paper. I did this one as sort of my prototype. And again, this is from Dear Julie Julie's Pansies kit. And I love the way it looks. But again, I will be a little more cautious going forward in that it's got very specific colors, and which is great if I'm making them for a specific journal. But right now, I'm making more ephemera stuff that I want to be able just to pick out and use. But anyway, so I put the tracing paper on, added some other stuff, and I don't know if you can tell on the video, but it's really kind of neat because I started out, I took just a piece of, this is craft cardstock, and I glued my music paper to it. This music paper is very old, and it tends to crack when it's folded and stuff, so I didn't want to try to double or triple it up to make it a tag by itself. So everything, I've made all my bases. Well, I've made several bases. And then I put the printed tracing paper on top. But even as it's done, the tracing paper, toward the center, where it's not sewn down, it tends to lift away from the base, which gives it really kind of a neat looking effect, in addition to the crinkliness of it. I don't know if you can hear that, but I love that kind of crinkly sound. But it kind of lifts away from the base, almost floats on top of it, in a sense. So then when you add these other stuff, these other little items that are sitting on top of the tracing paper, then they appear a little more lifted. So it's kind of a neat effect. Okay, so that was my prototype. So let's get one made so you can see how I did it, and maybe you can make your own. All right, here I'm using, this is another sheet of Tracy Fox, Nature's Epiphany. Now I'm working with some relatively large tags. These are 4 by... Can't remember if they're 7 or 7.5. 7. All right. Of course, you can make your tags any size to suit yourself. I intentionally made some large ones because I like large tags, but I tend, when I'm in the midst of making a journal, I don't think of making large tags. So I want to have a few, I want to have some in my ephemera stash to use and as a reminder. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my art glitter glue on my base. I don't need to glue every bit of the edge, because I am going to be sewing around it, but I do want to have some glue down for the paper to grab hold of just right around the edges to keep it from moving as I'm sewing around it. And you'll see I just cut out my rectangular shapes. And get that lined up. Somewhat straight. And press it down. This is really easy. So I think, did I do that backwards? I sure did. I sure did. Well, okay. So this one is going to be, it still looks okay, but it's going to be a fail. No? Yes, I did. Okay, so I glued that on the wrong side. This is the right side of the paper. This is the wrong side of the paper. So, all right, so that one's a fail. I think it'll still look all right. Just not exactly what I wanted. So this one, and this was just a sheet of scrapbook paper, thin scrapbook paper that I glued again onto a piece of cardstock. This was used cardstock, so I glued some coffee dyed paper on the back of it. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Can't believe I put that wrong side down. That's what I get for trying to talk and craft at the same time. So again, I'm going to put just a small bead of glue. Let's be sure we get this right side up because it's actually got some letters on it. I apologize if my head gets into the camera. All right. Now I'm going to cut around. I'm going to just separate them for right now. I am just bumbling all over the place. Didn't get that one on there very straight. It's going to be one of those days. I'm going to save that little scrap. All right. And you can see how I hope you can see the tracing paper still moves in the center, and that's what I mean by it kind of sits, kind of almost floats over the top of it. So that's kind of neat. All right, let me cut this one out. And I apologize if I'm cutting off camera or out of frame. My eyesight is such that I really have to have stuff at just the right angle to be able to do it. I hope everyone's doing well today. Okay. I think that one looks pretty good, even though I have it upside down. I'll just say it was on purpose to help protect the printed side of the paper, of the tracing paper. Yeah, that was my plan all along. Okay, then you can cut the corners on your tags, and however you do it, you've got, trim that up a little more. All right, you've got the corner method where you just snip a corner, and then I always have trouble with this. I don't use this method. And then flip it over to the other side to use as a guide so that your corners are even. And then I've got my method where I'd taken an old rewards card and cut the angles, put it in the corner, snip it, flip it over, put it in the other corner. And snip it. That way, that's easier for me just because then I don't have to hold on to the little triangles while I'm trying to cut. But whatever your method is. Okay, then I need to take this over to my sewing machine and sew around the edges. And so I'm going to do that, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I've sewn around the edges. And now I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to ink my edges just a bit. The inking doesn't really show up much on this paper that I'm using or this craft cardstock, but somehow I don't feel quite complete unless I've done a little inking. I don't know why. Somehow it feels like it. I know using vintage photo, it's supposed to age the edges, but somehow I feel like it, I don't know, somehow finishes the edges, frames the edges. I'm not sure. And you might see, I actually, after I rounded the bottom corners of mine, I've got We Are Memory Keepers. It has 3 sizes, and I just used the smallest, the 4mm corner rounder. And it does, on the edge where the threads meet, it does catch them and leaves it doesn't normally cut the threads, so it leaves a tiny bit of thread there, but that doesn't bother me, and I find it does help the tag slide in and out of the pockets a little easier. So I normally do that. Okay, so the only thing left is punch holes. And where are my hole reinforcers? Here, hole reinforcers. There they are. You know, I pull stuff out to try to get ready to make these videos, and inevitably something gets lost. And these hole reinforcers, you can see I've only got 4 left on this sheet. I just take a sheet and ink them all up at once so that they're ready to go. And on these, I'm actually putting them on the front and the back. It's probably not necessary, but since I've not used the tracing paper, I don't want to leave that raw edge. On it, and I don't know, just makes me feel better. But you do you. Okay, so now let's just going to give these a simple little topper. Like so. Stay in frame, Marcy. Now, if you ever hear me call myself or am scolding myself, like stay in frame, if you ever hear me say, stay in frame, Marcia Lynn, that's my given name, and that's my mother's voice fussing at me. And the only reason I say that is because that's what I started to say to myself just a minute ago. So I thought, I want to explain that. Okay. So there you go. And then you can decorate these further however you wish. At this point, actually these I kind of like the way they are. But I'm going to wait. When I know what journal I'm going to use them in, I may add a little more to them, but for right now, I think those look wonderful. And again, the tracing paper kind of sits on top. It's almost like it's sort of similar to the napkin effect, except that in this case, the tracing paper actually sits on top and you get that crinkly and you can tell that there's another layer there. And I'm just really loving it. I'll be playing with napkins soon, though, because I love playing with napkins, too. So, anyway, so that's what I'm going to work on today. Let me know down in the comments below what you're working on. Also, let me know what else you'd like to see me try using the tracing paper. I'm up for just about anything. I think in my next video, I'm going to make some envelopes with the tracing paper. But for today, I'm going to work on these tracing paper tags and get several of those made. And I will see you in my next video. Have a great day and be safe, everyone. Bye-bye.